What's up guys? So today I'm going to be installing new spark plugs on my 2014 3.7 Mustang. So let's get started. Alright, so there are going to be a few things that are absolutely crucial for this install. Obviously, new spark plugs. And you need to make sure that they're gapped to the right size. And I posted a video, I'll put that up there, on how to do that. I've got a short and a video on how to do that. It's very important. Even if they come pre-gapped, you need to check them. You don't necessarily need a spark plug tool in a spark plug socket, but it would absolutely help make life a little bit easier. So this is obviously an extension, and so you can get down into the head and grab the spark plug. It's magnetic. This is for the 3.7s, it is a 5/8 inch. And then also I got a torque wrench. I already had a torque wrench, but it was for big bolts, and I needed this one to be able to fit this socket so I could torque down my spark plugs to 12 foot-pounds. Also got an inch-pound torque wrench because the intake manifold on these cars is torqued down in inch-pounds. And then this is the spark plug gapping tool that you can use. Like I said, video up there, and that's good for that. I also made myself a little guide sheet. I drew this up and printed it out, everything that I need to do. That's the torque sequence. And so if y'all want to look at this, I'll put this in the description if y'all want to print this out and look at that. So I'm about ready. So what I'm going to first start with is I'm going to disconnect the negative terminal on my battery. So since I am going to be taking off the throttle body and unplugging it, I need the computer to relearn the throttle, and so it doesn't get messed up. So I'm going to start with doing that. Alright, now that that's done, I'm going to start taking off this strut tower brace. Believe these might be 10 millimeter, but I'll check on that. Alright, I got the bolts out on both sides, so now this strut tower brace is ready to come out. So I'm just going to lift it off and put it to the side. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is unbolt this airbox so I can get this out of the way. Alright, so the airbox is unbolted. So that's ready to get up and out of the way. But to get this intake to detach, you're gonna need to disconnect the MAP sensor. Mine is kind of under the shroud because I do have an intake spacer, so I pushed it over. So disconnect the MAP sensor right there, and then these two vacuum lines, and then this intake is no longer connected to anything really. I mean, we're gonna leave it connected to the throttle body, so I'm just remove everything in one piece, but then this step will be cleared. I got these taken off, and so now I'm going to start on disconnecting the throttle body, and then I'll start on taking off all of the connections to the intake manifold, and I can do the bolts for it. Alright, I got everything disconnected, so I'm going to disconnect all these 8mm bolts around the intake manifold and up here. I think I'm also going to disconnect this hard line so it can come off. So I set aside the styrofoam on my fuel rails because it was degrading, and I don't want that dust going into the intake manifold once I take the upper one off. Because you can see it's all over my fingers. I don't know why it's degrading like this, but it's just coming apart. So I'm going to brush all that dust. All right, I got all of the bolts and the wires disconnected. So now this intake manifold is ready to lift off. So I'm about to lift it off. All right, so I got my upper intake manifold off. I got my lower intake manifold covered with a rag so nothing falls in there. And so now I'm gonna go to each spark plug coil pack, and I'm going to unbolt the 8mm bolt that goes with it, and then remove these coil packs and get to the spark plugs. All right, I got all of the bolts out of all the coil packs, and so now I should just be able to wiggle them out. I might need to unplug them depending on how much play these wires have. If not, I can just leave them plugged in, but let's see if it wants to wiggle out for me, and then we'll be able to get those old spark plugs out. Yeah, so I think I am gonna need to unplug them because the wires don't have much play, and this is as far as I'm able to lift it up. So once I unplug it, I should be able to lift this coil pack out and get all of them out. So I'm gonna do that for all of them. All right, I got all of the coil packs out. So now I'm gonna take this spark plug socket on this big wrench, throw it down in there, and get all of the spark plugs out. Down in there. I think it's around it. All right, I got all of the old ones out. These are what all the old ones look like compared to the new. And I checked the gap. And the old ones is about 0.6. I don't know if that's just over time, this like electrode wearing down, because you can see this electrode's a lot taller. So I think the car is gonna run a lot better with the gap being fixed. So I'm about to go throw these in the car. What I recommend is you put it in your socket tool, and then when you get it in there, go left until you hear it click, so you reset the threads, and then hand tighten it down, because you do not want to cross thread these. And it's very important to torque these down to 12 foot-pounds. I got the coil packs in, plugged in, spark plugs torqued down, coil packs torqued down, and I threw my intake manifold back on. I hand threaded all those bolts down. Now I'm about to torque them down to 89 inch-pounds, and I'm gonna follow the sequence below. I'm gonna follow that sequence, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm gonna do that, and after that, it's plugging everything back in, getting my intake back on, and then my spark plugs are done, and we'll do a fire up and see if everything's good. All right, I just finished up. I got everything buttoned back up. I'm gonna recheck my connections, and then we're gonna get a first start on this, make sure everything goes smooth, and then this install of these spark plugs will be done. This was a pretty tough job. I wouldn't recommend this if you aren't. This took me about 5 hours in my garage with the tools. So if you aren't very mechanically inclined, I would say take this to a shop, but it's not that bad if you are. But let's get a first start on this. I can definitely tell a difference. I think it fixed a misfire I had, because when my car was idling, I noticed that it would idle and there'd be like a thump, and an idle thump from the exhaust. And so I haven't heard that yet. So I think it might have fixed that misfire, because I looked at my old spark plugs and I checked the gap on those, and the gap was way up near 0.07. And when I was looking at the owner's manual, it recommended 0.049 to 0.053, so that's way out of that spec. I think it just, with my car being 160,000 miles, that electrode got worn down really bad. I haven't gotten on the car yet. I haven't gotten on it to see how they are feeling yet, but just driving right now. We're driving to go pick up lunch. It's feeling good, working good, started up without a problem. So I think these are, I did pretty good on my install, got everything done. But like I said, I wouldn't recommend doing this if you aren't too mechanically inclined, because it was pretty tough. It took me about 5 hours. So if you don't know what you're doing, then I would recommend you take it somewhere. But thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you on the next video.